It's not a request for their permission to resign. Submitting resignation is informing them that you have made a decision. So congratulations, you've received the offer. Usually this is in the form of an offer document, but sometimes it is going to be a few bullet points by email for the company to get your thumbs up or your verbal acceptance before issuing the official offer letter, particularly with larger companies, as issuing that official offer letter can take several approvals, and with busy executives traveling around the world, that can take a few weeks just to circulate and get signed off on. So beware, until you get the official offer letter and put your pen to that paper, either physically or digitally, do not communicate your resignation to the employer, okay? It's very important to follow the sequence of you get the official offer letter, you sign it, return it back to your recruiter or talent acquisition department or HR, whoever's in touch with you or whoever is brokering this introduction. Then after you've signed that letter, even if you haven't sent it back to the recruiter of the company yet because of some, maybe it's over a weekend or something like that, but immediately start to plan for your resignation. Psychologically, this is very important to do this after you've signed, because signing that letter is a commitment to that company, not just legally, but more so psychologically that, yep, I'm in it, you're in it. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in for the ride. I'm going to take the leap of faith. Let's go. Let's get started. Okay. And that's important because when you go to your boss to resign, or your current employer, supervisor, whoever it is you're going to be talking to, this is not a request. It's not a request for their permission to resign. Submitting resignation is informing them that you have made a decision. So it is really important to follow that sequence so that when you have that conversation with your boss, your supervisor, or whomever, going to be doing that in a way that does not leave the door open to negotiation. It's natural to feel guilty when submitting resignation, especially if it's somewhere that you've been for a long time, you're doing well, they may or may not be expecting this from you. So it can feel guilty to be leaving unfinished business behind, which is always the case. There's never a perfect timing to leave a company. So remember that. It's also expected that you're going to be joining the new company in 1 month from signing the offer letter. Sometimes that's 6 weeks or even 2 months. It's rarely more than that unless you're a C-suite level executive with extenuating responsibilities on the board, or you have some extraordinary non-compete agreement that has consequences. Non-competes are very common, but unless there's financial consequences to those non-competes, they're often not enforceable, and they're just a tactic that employers use to discourage employees from leaving to a competitor. So unless you have any financial teeth or financial consequences to your non-compete, then it's probably something that you can get around and ignore, but don't take my word for that. I would recommend consulting with someone who has left your company in the past, your current company, for a competitor. Perhaps it's going to be another senior executive or similar level professional to the role you're in now at your current company in the new company. So you can ask their advice on how they manage that transition. And this could sort of be a off the record, backdoor kind of conversation, because there's no particular rule book for this and every situation is different. Therefore, again, do not take my words literally on this, but just to give you some context as to what I've observed in different transactions in my career, because after all, the headhunting business is all about poaching from competitors, and there's usually ways around these things if there's no financial penalties involved. Okay, so you're going to want to sign the offer letter and then send it back to your recruiter or HR. But whether or not you do that instantly, you do want to instantly start thinking about when you're going to resign to your boss and schedule that call, schedule that meeting. If they're on a business trip or out of town, at least communicate to them by email that you have something very important to talk about. When is that? And it's urgent. When is their next availability for a call or face-to-face meeting? And when you have that conversation, it's very important to incorporate 2 aspects. And this is in the resignation script I provided. 1, you want to be firm and clear. So saying something like, I have accepted an opportunity I cannot refuse. And then transition immediately to handover, assuming that they're going to accept your resignation with gratitude. So saying something like, I'm very grateful for my time here, and I'm committed to starting at my new firm by such and such date. As such, my last day in this company will be such and such date, and my last working day, because I'm going to use some annual leave, is such and such date. So I'd now like to focus on having a smooth handover, period. Then see how they respond. And hopefully they're going to be happy for you. Of course, disappointed. That's natural on their part as well. Sad to see you go. They're going to be thinking about the workload that you're going to be leaving behind, having to find your successor, etc. And that is perfectly natural and their responsibility. It is a leader's responsibility to prepare for these kinds of situations. This is business. This is part of life. And hopefully they're going to congratulate you for finding your next step and thank you for everything you've done, and then smoothly transition to focusing on handover. Depending on the industry you're in, you may or may not be allowed to stay in the office. In the recruiting industry, for example, because we have access to personal information in databases, you'll likely be walked out of the office. So if you're in a very high privacy industry, then you may not be able to get back into the office. But in my experience working with healthcare companies, usually that's not an issue and there is a handover involved. So you want to be able to be able to coordinate that as smoothly as possible so that you can take any remaining paid leave that you have in the company to take some time off and enjoy some well-deserved vacation time before starting in your next career. So I hope that gives you a little bit of confidence as to what to expect for a reasonable start date timeline. Okay, 1 month from signing the offer letter. And oftentimes employees don't get to use all their paid leave. So that's something that is very common in Japan, that employees have 30 or even 40 days of annual paid leave because they're such hard workers and they neglect to take their annual leave, which is not encouraged. I do encourage you to take your annual leave and not stack them up too much, because having that balance in life is very, very important, which is what the next module is going to lead into, is to how to use your transition time in order to have a very healthy refresh and treat that downtime as a launch pad to the next stage of your career.